enabled us to devise a strategy with which we lured his program into a designated body.
You caused the puppet master to dive into a cyborg, then meanwhile murdered his real body?
Yes, that sums it up.
Very carefully.
I entered this body because I was unable to overcome Section 6's reactive barriers. However, what you are now witnessing is an act of my own free will.
About 2 hours ago, a machining cell at the Newport City factory of Megatech assembled a completed cyberbot. Supervisors discovered there were no program instructions. It operated by itself.
Why are your sensors on?
The body shooting its own power source.
They found the body had taken off on its own. Then some truck driver reported a fatal accident, said that he'd run over a naked woman on the highway.
Megatech is contracted by the government. All the cybernetic bodies they make are classified.
That's one of our mission parameters.
We're dealing with a big fish that knows how to swim past the best defenses, but that's not the only problem.
This is the handiwork of the most extraordinary cybercrime.
Something strange was discovered. In its backup brain, there appears to be every indication that a ghost is present.
I require a cutting tool. 25 home/.
It resembles a simulated ghost line that occurs when a real ghost is found. But there's no evidence of the detonation to evidently occur.
Listen to me very carefully. Get out.
We won't be sure until we center and dive in. Otherwise, this is simply speculation. That's all we should.
Get back.
Sure.
The Megatech facility.
Who's in name then?
The Megatech facility.
Hasta la vista.
The Megatech
With the
facility.
hand. You ask for.
That's all we know.
Satellite systems, we know 101.
Man, oh man. This is too It believes there's a ghost in that body, do they?
But Major Kusanagi's body was also made by Megatech. You and the Chief are the only ones out of the whole section whose bodies don't come with a warranty.
The confusion is not rational. Trust me.
More signatures smoke camel than any other cigarette.
One thing, somebody had to hack some high-level that body together, and then send a program with a ghost line.
My code name is Project 2501.
I'm assembling a barrier. Tomorrow I'll dive into that thing. And don't let anybody, no one dive before I've gone in.
You think that's safe? Why not contain it until the body first?
I have to see for myself what's in there. If there is a real ghost, I'm gonna find it.
There have always been ghosts in the machine.
Hello and welcome to the show, Exiled Minds Podcast. Me, the famous Liam Martin, back after the spring break. Season 2 just started, just finished after. Yeah, we have a lot of work to do over the spring. Loads of stuff getting prepared in the garden. Some exciting opportunities come up with the radio stuff. So yeah, we'll have a quick chat about that, catch up. But yeah, hope you're well. So Spring has sprung. Well, it's been and gone now. Already past this. But yeah, spring has sprung and Exiled Minds Podcast is back. Season 2. Yeah, a bit delayed today. I was some technical issues. Needed to do some updates on some software, this and the other. But yeah, and yeah, things are improving though. You know, keep tweaking it and that. But also, yeah. So back after the spring break, then today we've got a show. We're going to cover the ancient wonders of the world, because I always find them quite fascinating myself. And then and then crystals kind of comes into it. I was doing a crystal skulls show, but I decided to kind of skip that and save it for another time because I've got a bit. That's where I kind of started with crystal skulls. It's a bit of a story, but then it ties into psychedelics. I've got the psychedelic hat, so I wear this psychedelic like a festival hat that I've got a festival. It's kind of a bit mushroom shaped, made of hemp or recyclable and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm kind of. I've always been on that side of things, like with art and psychedelic imagery and, you know, being a free thinker, I guess. But yeah, little sidetrack. But yeah, so I found the Ancient Wonders of the World stuff, so I wanted to cover that, and then so it ties into a few other things, but I want to save the Crystal School show specifically because I've got the book and I want to tell the story about how I came across it, so I'm going to save that. But crystals still ended up coming up in this anyway, weirdly enough. So, yeah, that's what we're going to cover today. Had some technical issues, but we managed to get sorted. So, it's today, for me at least, in the UK. It's Wednesday, the 3rd of May, 2023. I'll say a little bit late, but it's just for posterity. It's 11 minutes past 2 a.m. for me. So, doing a bit of a late one to make sure I can still get it in. Better late than never, as you say, the old saying goes. Not necessarily always in every case, but anyway. But yeah, got a new boom arm, so got mic position a lot better. Got my studio set up a bit more how I like it. So yeah, we're back. And yeah, some exciting news. My buddy Michael Strange of Troubled Minds Radio started his own, since I've been on break, started his own radio network. So that's really cool. Another buddy of mine, James, Salcedo Paranormal. He's featured on there. On the KUAP digital broadcasting. So links will be in the description for that. So yeah, check it out. Got a network now. It's running all the time. Been invited onto that. So it comes at a good timing for me because I've got a lot of stuff ready in my garden. I've been growing loads of stuff so I don't, miss out. You have to keep turning seedlings over. I found out last year. Missing out on crops. So this year, yeah, growing loads of veg. That's going good. That's why I've been doing a lot of work. But after spring, ready. So you got these exciting opportunities to join a radio station. So I've given my friend Michael some of my previous shows to upload, and then yeah, comes at a great time because we're starting up again. So that's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be on a radio network, so that's cool for the Exiled Minds podcast. Had a couple of affiliates reach out for things as well, so maybe some of that will come in the future. So that's brilliant. But anyway, to begin with the show then, I want to look at some of these ancient wonders of the world. Yeah, I'll get the old share screen up for the video viewers. That was a quick sneak preview there. But anyway, yeah, ancient wonders of the world. I'll cover these quickly because I always find these quite interesting. It kind of leads us into some interesting directions. So we'll get on with it then. So I'm going to go in what's sort of considered to be reverse order. Pyramids of Giza is one of the most famous. So that always gets the number one position. I'm going to go sort of in reverse. So 7 wonders of the world, we'll say at number 7 there, is the Lighthouse of Alexandria. So we've got the Library of Alexandria, and that's heard of, but it's not on the list for wonders of the world. The Library of Alexandria, it kind of is known as one, but then, and the Tower of Babel as well. They kind of are, but they're not. They're selective of which ones is which. We're considered, to be an ancient wonder. Okay, but so we'll look at the ones that's sort of official. So the Lighthouse of Alexandria. And this is pretty cool, actually. Lighthouse of Alexandria is also called the Pharaohs of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the world, the most famous lighthouse in antiquity. It was a technological triumph and is the archetype of all lighthouses since. Yeah, it's based on that kind of shape, same lighthouse shape, but it kind of tapers wider at the bottom, kind of tapers upwards. Although this one's, rather than being a lighthouse, is just kind of a tapering cylinder. But this one's got tiers. It looks a bit more like a tower for a castle. tiers and little points on the corners, and a rotunda at the top. But yeah, lighthouse out on the coast. So yeah, one of the 7 wonders of the world and the most famous lighthouse in antiquity. It's a technological marvel, archetype for lighthouses since then. Built by Sostrius of Cnidus, Cnidus. Okay, so Sostrius of Cnidus, perhaps Ptolemy the First, Psalter. That's what it says. Perhaps you built it for Ptolemy the First. It was finished during the reign of Psalter's son. So he's thinking, yeah, maybe it made it for Ptolemy, and then it took until he's passed away, and his sons took over Egypt in about 280 BCE. So the lighthouse stood on the island of Pharos in the harbour of Alexandria, and said to have been more than 350 feet high, which is 110 meters. The only taller man-made structure at the time would have been the pyramids of Giza. And that's why Giza always gets number one, because with pyramids of Giza, the Great Pyramid was the tallest structure ever made until perhaps I think the 30s, like the Empire State Building was one of the first buildings to get higher than it. So it's pretty. That's why there's a bit of a mystery with this stuff. But anyway, yeah. So that's it would have been the tallest buildings in the world apart from the pyramids, which say have a bit of mystique anyway. And yeah, I suppose you could argue a pyramid shape. We could just keep stacking them up for centuries to make something high. So this is more of an engineering feat because it's it's an actual building, this lighthouse, in a sense. But anyway, so yeah, only the pyramids of Giza would have been higher. It was much of what is known about the structure of the lighthouse comes from the 1909 work of Hermann Triest, and he had this book. His writings were Pharos, Antique, Islam, and Occult. In German, presumably, or Swiss German. According to the ancient sources consulted by Thrush, the lighthouse was built in 3 stages, all sloping sides inwards, with the lowest was squares, the next octagonal, and the top was cylindrical. So it starts off with squares at the bottom, at the base bit, and then there's a sort of middle part, so it's a hexagon basically, and then a round bit at the top. And a broad spiraling lamp led to the top. A broad spiraling ramp led to the top, where fire was burned at night. Some descriptions report that the lighthouse was surmounted by a huge statue, possibly representing either Alexander the Great or Ptolemy the First. So a statue of Alexander the Great or Ptolemy the First in the form of the sun god Helios, so make him look like Helios. It kind of makes sense, yeah. Kind of makes sense actually. And Ptolemy, he's significant with the astrology. So you got Alexander the Great for conquering, but then Ptolemy with the astrology and astronomy. I think he was linking a lot of alchemy stuff. Very philosophical. That guy's worth checking out actually. But yeah, Ptolemy or Alexander the Great would have been aloft this great lighthouse, and I remember seeing a documentary about it where that speculated that made this, that it had bronze, like almost like a bronze shields at the top of the lighthouse to help reflect the big fire that they burn like a big bonfire up there, or maybe oil. Don't know. But yeah, they built a massive fire inside of it, and then they had all these kind of like reflectors, polished bronze, like parabolic, I think. That was the speculation and documentary I saw. So yeah, it's pretty cool. The lighthouse, they're supposed to have seen it for miles around as well. And it always gets me wondering about that, what's that? There's that famous story where they used a magnifying glass to burn some ships. Or was it a mirror? It might be Archimedes. I don't know, famous stories. But yeah, it sort of reminds me of that, reflecting the light. Anyway, moving on. Next one. In at number 6. I should have got some cheesy music. In at number 6, the Colossus of Rhodes. this guy. I mean, here we've got for people on the video. There's a bit of a picture of from a thumbnail from a video. It's more like the Statue of Liberty or something with it. But I think that's supposed to, give you a statue example because it had the rays. But anyway, yeah, let's read the article. So the Colossus of Rhodes. This is from Britannica.com, Encyclopedia Britannica. Colossus of Rhodes is a colossal statue of the sun god Helios, which got mentioned there. And it stood in the ancient Greek city of Rhodes. It was one of the 7 wonders of the world. The sculptor Charles of Lindis, which is another city on the island, created the statue. So there's just a guy. Oh, what's his face? Bob from Wensleydale. But in Greek terms. So yeah, so this guy then was created the statue, which has commemorated the raising of Demetrius I of Polocrates' long siege. So it has a long siege in 305 BC on Rhodes, and it wins. That's that. I think this was the story. Yeah, they hold off a long siege. That's it. I think they hold off, and then they're like praising the sun god. I remember this. So they decided to make a statue because I remember this story. Yeah. They managed to hold off. I think what the deal was there. I think I remember this story now. I think what the deal was there. They were like chased away to Rhodes and on Rhodes, and for some reason people weren't able to invade Rhodes very well. You'd expect that big Greek armies would be able to go in there and invade them, but for some reason Rhodes were pretty good at defending themselves, and they had this belief, it's Helios protecting them, and so when they won that, won the war of attrition against that great siege. It was like, yeah, we'll build a massive statue. So, yeah, I remember that's what the story was of that. So, but this is a kind of sad story in a way, because this thing is massive. Its bronze statue is reinforced with iron. It was weighted with stones, but massive rocks, built so far, put massive rocks in like its feet, because accounting for the wind. They knew the wind was going to try and topple it, so they put big boulders in the bottom. It's said to have be 70 cubits, which would be like 105 feet, like 32 meters high. So that's not bad. 100-foot statue, pretty damn good. So 32 meters high, stood beside the harbour. Okay, the harbour of Mandrakium, perhaps shielding his eyes with one hand as a representation of a relief suggestion. Okay, so it says technically it's impossible that the statue could have straddled the harbour entrance as a popular belief. Yeah, a lot of people, I think there's a bit of mythology, like urban myth, that he used to have his legs apart. So you have to like go sail your ship like between his legs kind of thing. Like very masculine. But, okay, so these historians are saying, no, it can't really have been technically possible to have done that, for him to straddle the harbour. But yeah, it says the statue it took 12 years to build, from 294 BC to 282 BCE, was toppled by an earthquake. It's pretty sad. And the fallen Colossus was left in place until 654, when Arabian forces raided Rhodes and had the statue broken up for the bronze and sold it for scrap. Supposedly the fragments total more than 900 camel loads. So there's a heck of a lot of bronze. But the bit is not mentioned in here that it was such a sad loss that it cost so much money to make this thing. The guy that invented it, right, they had to make it in a spiral pattern, making a dirt bank all the way up to get to the top of it. They had to make it and then cover it in dirt and keep going up. So you couldn't see it until it finished. And the guy that made it didn't know what it was going to look like. And once it had done, it was great. It was amazing. But it cost so much money. He miscalculated it. And it cost so much money. It put him in massive debt and he went broke. And I think he committed suicide. So it's a bit of like cursed statue then in a way. So it's kind of sad story really. And an earthquake brings it down. It probably blamed it. Seems sad and just left it in place. I think it became a bit of a sad thing. Kind of weird really. But yeah, little side note there, not mentioned in the story. Exclusive from your famous Liam Martin. Let's get another one in quick before we hit for the break. Okay, so the next one is the tomb of King Mausolus. Right, this is great. The mausoleum of Halicarnassos. The mausoleum of Halicarnassos. That's where this is where we get the name mausoleum from King Mausolus. This was his tomb he had wanted to build in, and it was supposed to be a tomb for this guy. But this thing was amazing. This thing, the mausoleum, was regarded as one of 7 wonders of the ancient world. Is so impressive that the word mausoleum is now used for many memorial tombs. As I just mentioned. Although built on a much grander scale, the mausoleum took inspiration from its designer, its monument of Xanthos and the city of the ancient Lycia in Turkey. This particular, it had influences. I remember this from a documentary as well. It's got influences from all different eras, from different parts of the world, all put onto one building, sort of thing. So yeah, it had these influences from Lycia in Turkey. You can see it in the monument in the British Museum. It says you can see it in the rear of the monument in room 17 at the British Museum. So links will be in the description if you want to check these articles out, which I recommend you do. Check it for yourself. Okay, standing tall on a podium, the building was up on 40 meters, up to 40 meters high, 131 feet, and extravagantly decorated. Large amounts of sculptures carved and round reliefs carved in the rounds, and the type of sculptures and the figurines were presented in a complete 3-dimensional form, not attached as like a flat background. Carved in relief style, the carvings were an image that stands out or occasionally is cut into the flat background. So it's like coming in and out of the background, but with solid carved pieces. And then all these are like amazing reliefs and like say different layers that had different art aspects from different parts of the world. It's really incredible. It's really worth don't really any good images here for the video viewers, but definitely check out the mausoleum of Halicarnassos. It's really a fascinating building. So yeah, definitely recommend that one for the listeners. So that's the mausoleum of Halicarnassos. Definitely look into the story of that. I'm going to get in too deep in this one. So a quick overview today, and we're going to go for a quick break now. But yeah, definitely check all this stuff out. Always check it for yourself. I might be crazy. My friends might be crazy, or maybe we're onto something. So always got to check. Anyway, stick some music on quick. Stick this other montage thing on again, and then put a different one on. Let's try this one. Back in a couple of minutes. Quick break.
This is what's going on.
Just a moment. We're back. Exiled Minds Podcast.
Understand is
Me, Liam Martin.
the nature of our universe in terms of the reality which we live in.
It's impossible.
We have a 3-dimensional reality which we all know and accept and see.
Give me the cup of
One idea of the 3rd dimension is
beginning to fade, sir.
reconstructed by high vision.
I didn't think it was possible.
She's radar, which you can show as a 3-dimensional vector. She's really bad. The 4th dimension is the standard linear time dimension as we know it in terms of the flow of time measured by a clock. Whether it be a wind-up electric or an atomic clock, it's still a linear function.
That's like using the military.
It doesn't normally change the rate of flow.
We invented the internet, tried teleportation, thermomagnetic,
Measured in a laboratory.
31. T.B. Ouspensky wrote a book entitled Searching for Organa, the New Model of the Universe. And she described
Hello, welcome back. Thanks for your patience. Exiled Minds Podcast, Episode 1, Season 2, back after the spring break. Me host, Liam Martin, Exiled Minds Podcast. Kill that music. Not very professional fade there, but still getting set up. Yeah, let's get the start of the show on. Yeah, okay, so let's moving on with these 7 wonders of the world which we're exploring today. On Wednesday, the 3rd of May. Broadcasting from Nottingham, live in the UK. Shouts out Knots. So, yeah, covering the seven wonders of the world today. And it's gonna be a little bit about crystals at the end, with a view to doing a show on the crystal schools later on. But I'll find my book for it, it's important. Anyway, moving on. So we've covered number 7, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. We've had the Colossus of Rhodes at number 6. Number 5, highly recommended mausoleum. And then in at number 4, we've got the statue of Zeus at Olympia. And this baby. And this one's pretty cool as well. And they're all cool, really. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was a giant seated figure. 12.4 meters, so 41 foot tall, and that's him sitting down. For the video viewers, and I'll try and do my best to sort of try and describe the kind of size difference. But the statue is on a kind of platform at the bottom, and then another platform, or it looks like it's a big platform with like a wall around it. But yeah, the initial first looking platform comes to about shoulder height on people, but then there's another platform that's nearly as big as that. So I mean, this thing don't even start until probably about 10 foot in the air. It don't even start. That's just the initial platform. Looks like it's about, I don't know, 8 feet tall, 9 feet. And then there's a bit more. Is on a chair as well. You know, this guy's sat on a chair. It don't start till about 10, 12 feet in the air. So, you know. So this old statue of him sat down is for about 30 feet. So it's kind of big. Anyway. It was made by a Greek sculptor, Phidias, in around 435 BC at the Sanctuary of Olympia in Greece, as in Olympics, the Greek pantheon and all that. It was erected in the Temple of Zeus. So they made this temple, and then the deal is they've made this temple, and then they put this temple of this statue of Zeus inside. But the way that they designed it so that you couldn't see the guy. You couldn't see the statue. Even when you first go in, you can't see anything. I think that's why it's taller on a platform. So you can't see it. It's out of view until the moment when you pass the threshold of the door. And then that's when so you're not going to see it until the last minute. So you have to walk in. And so then it's going to be kind of more dramatic, isn't it? If you just can't see it, and then last minute you walk in, it all hits you. It's a bit like the DMT experience, people describe it. So you don't see it until it's at your nose, and then you realise it's a massive tidal wave, like, wah! You know, that's why it's kind of freaky. But anyway, so yeah, that's it's not an optical illusion, but it's a good, you know, theatre. It's like the great reveal. Wait to see it's the last minute. So yeah, Zeus in Olympia, so he was kind of hidden away in that sort of, so you can't see it till last minute. And Zeus is the sky and thunder god in ancient Greek religion. He is also he's a ruler, he's the king of the gods of Mount Olympus. So the statue was, it says that the statue was a sculpture of ivory plates and gold panels with a gold wooden frame, and Zeus sat painted on a cedar wood throne with it was ornamented with ebony, ivory, gold, all kinds of precious stones, and is one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world. And I happen to know that they managed to mould and shape the ivory by softening it in acid, probably some kind of vinegar or wine or something, soften it, and it made it more malleable to shape. So that's an interesting little factor there for you. So that was number 4. So in at number 3, Temple of Artemis. Again, this is another one and a lot of this is in ruins now, but a lot of the columns still remain. And the Temple of Artemis, this one in at number, what was that, 765, or in at number 3, this one. So in top 3 spots now. Temple of Artemis, Ephesus, was located at the western coast of Asia Minor, which is Turkey today, and is built in the 6th century BCE. Such was its tremendous size, double the dimensions of other Greek temples, including the Pantheon, which is like the big pist of resistance thing. That was sooner regarded as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Destroyed by a deliberate fire in the 4th century BCE and then rebuilt, the great iconic temple survived until late antiquity and the Gothic invasion of current era 269. Once again rebuilt in 401, it was torn down for the last time by a Christian mob. Today, only the foundations and solitary column stand as a reminder of a site where once stood the greatest temple of the ancient Mediterranean. So this is interesting about this in Turkey and the whole Anatolia region, that whole thing. There's some ancient stuff happening there. We look at Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe as well, and there's some really old stuff happening there. There's been some lost civilization from around that way as well, you know. And believe it or not, if dragons were real, little side note, it looks like they came from there. Another sidetrack. We got dragon stories all over the world, in all different parts of history, and there's a lot of talk of that's where they're coming from. But anyway, a side note. Talking the Middle East. Guess what else we got? In at number 2, Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Gotta love this one because I'm doing gardening in a minute. So that's what I'm aiming for, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon look. But here's a shocker for you. Dun, dun, dun. Guess what? You know what they're telling us? Hanging Gardens of Babylon existed. Yes, indeed. But not in Babylon. What? Not in Babylon. It can't be right. Is that right? Not in Babylon? That's what the researchers say. Oxford researchers, though. From a university. Well known one. Okay, so this is from history.com. Hanging Gardens existed, but not in Babylon. An Oxford researcher says she has found evidence of the elusive Hanging Gardens of Babylon 300 miles from Babylon. First thought, I thought was maybe Babylon, just the whole region just extended further than you thought. So that's, or maybe that was called Babylon then, and then they changed, who knows. Or maybe you're mislabeling things. But let's see what the researchers say. Just wanted to throw that out there because that was my initial thought. Greek and Roman texts paint vivid pictures of the luxurious Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Amid the hot and arid landscape of ancient Babylon, lush vegetation cascaded like waterfalls down the terraces of a 75-foot high garden. Exotic plants, herbs and flowers dazzled the eyes, and fragrances wafted through the towering botanical oasis dotted with statues and tall stone columns. Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II was said to have constructed the luxurious Hanging Gardens in the 6th century BC as a gift to his wife. Ametis. Isn't that nice, eh? Because she was homesick for the beautiful vegetation of the mountains of her native Media, which was a northwestern part of modern-day Iran. To make the desert bloom, a marvel of irrigation engineering would have been required. Scientists have surmised that a system of pumps, water wheels, and cisterns would have been, I think cisterns are like lever things. Cisterns would have been employed to raise and deliver the water from nearby Euphrates River to the top of the gardens. Let's just look up this word cisterns quick, because I like to just be on top of the words there. You know what your words are, label things, understand what the world is. That's what I would say. There we go. It's taking its while to load up. Can look at my overlay mug for a bit. Hey. Oh, okay. It's those like water systems that you get for toilets, like a tank with a pipe on. Like a minute. Oh, okay, you pump some up into that and it can hold it for. Okay, I don't know. Little storage tanks then. Maybe it's referring to that. But anyway, yeah. So they're pretty cool. Hanging Gardens of Babylon, pumping up the Euphrates River, made these luscious gardens and had to keep providing themselves with lots of water, with, like I say, presumably with pumps and water wheels and, you know, storage tanks and irrigation, pump it up from the Euphrates River. So going on, a history.com article. The multiple Greek and Roman accounts of the Hanging Gardens, however, were second-hand written from historians after the wonder's alleged destruction, so they're writing about it after, not during the time. First-hand accounts did not exist, and for centuries, archaeologists have hunted in vain for the remains of the gardens. They've never actually found them there. A group of German archaeologists has spent 2 decades at the turn of the 20th century trying to unearth signs of the ancient wonder without any luck. Okay. However, Dr. Stephanie Daly, an honorary research fellow at the and part of the Oriental Institute at England's Oxford University, believes she has found evidence of the existence of the legendary Wonder of the Ancient World. In her soon-to-be-released book, The Mystery of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, An Elusive Wonder Traced, published by Oxford University Press, Daly asserts that the reason why no traces of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon have been found is because they were never built there in the first place. Daly, who has spent the better part of 2 decades researching the Hanging Gardens and studying ancient cuneiform texts, believes that they were constructed 300 miles north of Babylon and Nineveh. Nineveh. Okay. The capital... Oh, okay, so Nineveh, the capital of the rival Assyrian Empire. Okay, so yeah, okay. History is written by the winner. Maybe they claimed it. She asserts the Assyrian king Sennacherib, not Nebuchadnezzar II, built the marvel in the early 7th century BC, and a century earlier than scholars have previously thought. According to the Oxford University, Daly, who is a scholar in the ancient Mesopotamian languages, found evidence in new translations of ancient texts from the aforementioned king Sennacherib, I don't know how to say it, Sennacherib, that described his own unrivaled palace and a wonder for all peoples. He also mentioned a bronze water rising screw, similar to Archimedes' screw, developed 4 centuries later, that could have been used to irrigate the gardens, which is true. I've seen that as a something that's been proposed, that an Archimedes screw would have lifted the water. Do you imagine the corkscrew? Because it tries to sit at its bottom level, but the corkscrew itself is physically moving upwards. So the water can sit there, but it's being lifted up like an escalator, so it doesn't tip out. So that is a viable way. So it is fine. Archimedes screw centuries before as well. It's a bit more in the old ancient technologies are better than we thought, of which there's loads of examples. That's a show, Dead Man Secrets. We'll do that in a couple of weeks. Try and get Jonathan Gray on, hopefully. Okay, so the Hanging Gardens. That's number 2. I'd say may well have not been there at all. So according to this Oxford scholar. So yeah, Dr. Stephanie Daly says it might have been built by the rival Assyrian Empire instead. So yeah, 300 miles away, looking in the wrong place. So yeah, but of course, number one for the ancient wonders of the world always going to be the pyramids of Giza. Like I say, there's so much mystery about it. It's the oldest, it is the tallest, like I say, until modern buildings are built. So much mystery about it. And let's just jump on here. Look, pyramidsofgiza.com. Pyramids of Giza in Egypt mark glorious time in human civilization. Located in the Giza necropolis just outside of the city of Cairo, they were built by 3 pharaohs of ancient some 4,500 years ago. Regarded as an architectural marvel, the pyramids of Giza are one of the 7 wonders of the world. This is the basic spiel. But 4,500 years ago is probably a bit... Robert Schoch. Let's see what he says about that. Robert Schoch. For the radio listeners, there's a Dr. Robert Schoch is a geologist that was asked to do some dating there, basically. And he noticed the weathering patterns, the water erosion there, and it was like, well, you know, there'd been water there for thousands of years, sort of thing. So it must be much older. It was, I think he gave a date of about 12,000 years. 12,000 years, perhaps. And some people go, the way it works is, when's the last time there was water there? And because there's a Sphinx there and it's a lion, saying, well, it should be facing the constellation Leo. So people will trace back the stars and the patterns where say, well, when would it have been facing Leo last? When it was raining last, sort of thing. So if it hadn't rained for 2,000 years, yeah. So basically, they just wind back the clock of the stars. So he's dating it, trying to be conservative, about 12, 16,000 years maybe. Yeah. But and it looks like there was a great flood about that time as well, Younger Dryas period. So it could be that. But then some people will spin it back and say, well, when was it facing Leo before that? If it was even older. So I've heard figures thrown out like 70,000 years old. But this is saying 4,500. Shocks looking at doubling that. But they didn't want to hear that, the archaeologists at the time, because there's nothing that old. But then we discovered Göbekli Tepe. So it was like 14,000. So all gets blown out the water. But that's why I have to have these conversations and check this stuff out. And keep looking. Keep asking the questions. So yeah, Pyramids of Giza. There's so much to be said about this. There's all sorts. Farsight did a remote viewing on this. That's probably worth a look. But it's a quick spiel. The first, because there's another one, you see. Even though this is the last one, there's another one, which is a new candidate for an 8th wonder. So we'll get to that in a sec. So yeah, anciently, yeah, first built by Khufu around 2,550. Khufu's pyramid is also known as the Great Pyramid. And it's the largest among the 3. A very imposing height of 146.5 meters. I mean, compared to that, that was 41.5. I think it was the height of the statue of Zeus. It was 100 meters higher, you know, and it was only 100 feet for the statue, the Colossus statue. Is that 150 meters nearly? It's way bigger. So, you know, it's supposed to took around 20 years to complete. It's still unknown how the Egyptians pulled off such a massive construction feat. To build it in 20 years with the amount of blocks, you need to cut and place them one every few minutes, I think, the way it works out. That's why there's a lot of mystery about it. But if you give them a lot longer than 20 years, then fine. But I don't know. There's a lot of controversy about that particular one. However, you know, coming towards the end of the show, I won't get to the crystals bit. I have to rename it. But what it is the crystals is that... So I went to this crystal show, and then in looking at these wonders of the world, we actually... what we find is there's another kind of unusual place called Nan Madal, which I'm gonna argue this is an ancient wonder of the world because this is a set of man-made islands. Okay, so from Wikipedia, links in the descriptions. Nan Madal is an archaeological site adjacent to the eastern shore of the island of Pohnpei. That's Pohnpei, now part of the... I can't even say this, district of the state. It's the federal states of Micronesia. in the Western Pacific Ocean. Nan Madol was the capital of the Sudelia dynasty in about 1628. The city is constructed in lagoons consisting of a series of small artificial islands linked together, creating a network of canals. The site core with its stone walls encloses an area approximately 1.5 kilometers long and half a kilometer wide. It contains 92 artificial inlets of stone and coral platforms bordered by tidal canals. So it's got this whole like canalway system. It's just artificial islands. The name Nan Madol means within the intervals and is a reference to the canals that crisscross the ruins. The original name was Son Nang Leng, Reef of Heavens, according to Gene Ashby in his book Pohnpei, an Island Argosy, I don't know why it's called that. It's often called the eighth wonder of the world or the Venice of the Pacific. Nan Madol was a ceremonial and political seat for the aforementioned Sudelia dynasty. It united the people of a population of around 25,000 people until about 1628. Set apart between the main islands, there was huge scenes of human activity as early as the 1st and 2nd century AD. But by the 8th or 9th century, the inlet's construction had started with the construction of distinctive megalithic architecture beginning in 1180 and 1200 AD. Little can be verified about the megalithic constructions. The traditions claim that the builders of this archaeological site, which is also the particular archaeological site called Kosri, was also made of huge stones. They migrated from there to here to Pompeii, where they used their skills and experience to build even more impressive Nan Madol complex. So they're saying it was some other people that came in and did it, and the radiocarbon dating indicates that Nan Madol predates the little architectural site anyway. So they're saying, so it's unlikely that Nan Madol was influenced by them because it's older than it, unless Nan Madol is a lot older than they thought. And all of it's a lot older. You don't know, do you? The radiocarbon dating, don't know how accurate that is. I don't know anymore, because I know I've seen places where stalactites have formed in decades in people's cellars, and a place in Seattle, I think. So it's like, well, that's not right. And then now Yale University, years ago actually, because Roger Spur, he pointed out that Yale, he's been talking about mum fossils for a long time, about how things can fossilize really quickly. Nuclear fission invasion. And he's wrote papers on it, and then Yale University confirmed it a few years ago. There was a global flood that fossilized all the biology really quickly, and only a few thousand years ago. So it gets into some funky places because, like I say, there's loads of questions to be asked. There's so many questions. Like this place, I was going to link this on into crystals. We're going to do part 2 on this, do this crystal show, because some of these megalithic blocks, they're like the crystalline basalt, crystalline hexagonal shafts, and there's all these weird things. There's all these weird crystal things that we're finding with it. And then when I was looking into when I started to look into crystals, thinking about doing this Crystal Schools show, this island, because I happen to know about it, I mean, it came up, you know, Nan Madol came up that these things are basalt and crystal, with all the sort of amazing crystal talk, so that sort of thing. So I want to do a bit of a part 2, but as I say, I was having some technical problems today, so I wanted to make sure I threw some kind of sort of show out there. But just for the video viewers, it's on today, or anyone that catches it after on the video, not on the radio. Yeah, just some images here, quick, of some of these like long, elongated blocks. Oh, it's got rid of the good ones now. But yeah, this is another place. Look, the mystery of Gunung Padang in Java. it's got a lot of these same kind of long blocks, like crystals. Look, you know, it says here in Jakarta, in Indonesia, in the capital's largest city, is a sprawling mass of cars, trucks, motorcycles, street vendors. It take hours to drive through. Jakarta is a getaway of a small town of Sukhumbi. It says Jakarta is the getaway of a small town, Sukhumbi, in Western Java. Some strange ruins of Gunung Padang, curious basalt megaliths on the hillside outside of the town. The site was first mentioned by Rapporten van de... I can't even say that. The reporter of the Department of Antiquities in 1914 by some Dutch historian called N.J. Krom. N.J. Krom is also said to have mentioned it in 1949. The site has also been visited by employees of the National Archaeological Research Society at some point in 1979. So yeah, it's got these logs, a hill of basalt crystalline logs. And that's where the sort of crystal link came in. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute. And then I started to look into, so you got your crystalline logs, Namadol 8th wonder of the world. And I was like, hang on a minute. And then the crystals thing comes up. It comes up in weird ways. It comes up all throughout history, and it comes up in this book that I was gonna quickly try and showcase. So I run out of time. We're gonna have to end in a sec. But yeah, there's this book called Unimaginable. So this book Unimaginable, just before we end the show, just quickly let you know about this. This book Unimaginable, we'll get into this next time. There's a book. The subtitle is "What Our World Would Be Like Without Christianity," and it's a speculation on what the world would be like if Rome and Christianity, none of it happened. And it ended up, it's got high ratings, 4.6 out of 199. And the premise was basically that, you know, what happens if you don't do that? And it ended up, we have some kind of part Greco-Roman kind of design, and society is totally different, and the technology is based around crystals. So I thought that was an interesting thread, considering I wanted to do the Crystal Schools show, and then decided to do the Ancient Wonders one, and then crystals started to come up. So I'm going to do part 2 on this one tomorrow. I've been thinking about this and I had the technical problems today. So we'll do that. We'll do part 2 on this tomorrow, and then we'll carry on and do a quick recap, and then we'll talk about crystals tomorrow. And yeah, just see where this goes, and maybe bring in some of that Crystal School stuff as well. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's loads of stuff. I found loads of articles on crystals throughout history, so we'll check that out anyway. But let's just end for today. Liam Martin, Exiled Minds Podcast. Nice to be back. Season 2, first episode of Season 2. So hope you enjoy it. We'll do a part 2 tomorrow. I'll be back at 10 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. Pacific. See you there. Thanks very much. Take it easy. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to tell you to like, subscribe, and tune in to Troubled Minds Radio, KUAP, digital broadcasting. Links in the description. See you next time.
Yeah.